the outward view of the state of South Carolina from this weekend was not a good one by any means, and we'll definitely dive into that game as the show goes along. But I want to start off first talking about Saturday's game, giving credit to Vanderbilt, because I do think they deserve it, right? Yeah, Carolina did not play their best game. Injury to Sellers certainly didn't help, but this isn't your dad's or granddad's, great-granddad's Vanderbilt team, right? I think we still have the inclination in our minds to see the V on the helmet and just assume, oh, that's a crappy team. There's no way that team should come into your house and beat you. This is a good Vanderbilt team. I don't know if they're going to be like a playoff caliber team. I think they can give a lot of really good teams, and they're going to play Texas and Alabama and LSU once again as the season rolls along. They have the capability of giving all those teams good games and maybe knocking off one, if not more of them, as the season rolls along. And I think it was Clark Lee talking about it either last week or after the game when he talked about windows of opportunity. And Vanderbilt's program that, again, for my entire lifetime, your entire lifetime, has always been bad, right? They had the couple good years there with James Franklin before he left for Penn State. But for the most part, Vanderbilt has been the punching bag of the SEC, the team that when you look at your schedule, you just go ahead and mark that off as a win because that's how they've always been. But in the past year, they brought in Diego Pavia. They brought in Tim Beck and his offensive scheme from New Mexico State, and they've been firing on all cylinders. But they understand they're in a window right now. And when Diego Pavia graduates at the end of this year, unless he sues the NCAA again, I don't know what they're going to be. They could go back to being a 2-10 team. They could go back to being 4-8. They understand they have to strike while the iron's hot right now. And the team that came in here on Saturday night at Williams-Brice Stadium and played was a team that understands there's a sense of urgency to play your best football right now to capitalize on however far you can go while you have the pieces in place to do something special.
Yeah, you've got to really capitalize on it. And not only this year, though, Tyler, you have to use the momentum. And we've talked about this before. You've got to use the momentum to lay the foundation and the groundwork for what you want to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You want to elevate your floor. That's the big thing now. People talk about floors and ceilings, okay? Yes. They've elevated the floor at Vanderbilt exponentially. Right now they're trying to put the underpinning around it so that it stays at that level, then keep raising it to that point. Look, man, Vanderbilt on any given day, and I mean this with all my little heart, Vanderbilt on any given day could compete and possibly beat any team in the Southeastern Conference because, A, they have some dudes.
Yeah.
They have some players. They've brought some guys on board who are, to your point, not what we used to see. These are actual SEC-level players.
Yes.
But they also believe. They know that they can go play. They know they don't have to go in and take an obligatory butt kicking. They can win the game. And that's a powerful force, dude. And, you know, people talk about culture and this, that, and the other. It's a blend. It's having the dudes, having the culture, putting them together. And we saw what happens on Saturday night. That Vanderbilt was the better team.
Yeah.
And the better prepared team.
They absolutely were. And, again, you're never going to really know what could have been because you lost your best player, your star quarterback, you know, less than halfway through the game. But I can't say with the utmost confidence that even if Sellers plays that entire game, Carolina still, you know, or Carolina would have found a way to win. I think it would have been more competitive, a lot more close. I think you maybe could have gotten yourself to the end zone another couple of times. But, again, we'll never know, obviously. And that was obviously the catalyst of what everything that went wrong for the most part on Saturday was you lose Sellers right before halftime. And, again, I give all the credit in the world to Luke Doty. He is somebody that's stuck it out. He loves the program, loves the team. He's done everything that's asked of him, whether it be to be a quarterback, to be a receiver, to play on special teams, and he does it all with a smile on his face. And there's a lot of players, and I'd say 95% of players in college football, I wish had that same kind of heart, drive, and determination Luke Doty did, but he's thrust into an opportunity where he has to come in and play in an SEC game for over a half, and it wasn't great, right? Now, again, he made some bad throws. The protection broke down a couple times. It wasn't completely on him, but it was very clear that, hey, if you want to be successful, Sellers has to be your quarterback, and fingers crossed that we get him back for this upcoming weekend because it gets a whole lot harder when you go on the road for the first time taking on Missouri this weekend.
And it's not as simple as saying, okay, if Sellers is in, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. There's so many other variables that can be thrown out there. I'm not even going to go down that road. But at the end of the day, though, Tyler, Lenore Sellers isn't making tackles. South Carolina's defense could not get off the football field. And it does no good who's taking snaps, because he's taking snaps on the sideline to stay warm while Vanderbilt goes on a 9-10 play drive.
Yep.
And that happened over and over and over. So that's an issue that's got to be addressed, and addressed quick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, it wasn't the best overall game for the team, and we talked about it going in, that you were going to have to play fundamentally sound on defense if you wanted to beat your team like this, that, again, does so many things pre-snap and does so many things horizontally that, not every team does. You're going to have to play good fundamental football. That didn't happen. A lot of missed tackles and those kind of things obviously mixed in. And the biggest thing to me, we talked about this in the last hour, it did seem like there was a little bit of air that got let out when Sellers gets hurt. And from like a fan standpoint, I get it. They showed the people in the stands when Sellers went down, and had to be walked off the field, with their hands over their mouths and the look of concern on their face. But a lot of times, as a team, you'll see, hey, got to rally around here. Our best players out. That means we all got to step up and play even better to make up for this difference. And again, I'm not saying they quit or gave up, but I just didn't quite see the fire that I wanted to, right? When the starting quarterback goes down, everybody kind of going out there saying, hey, I got to go do my job to an even higher degree now to kind of make up for this difference of him not being out there. Unfortunately, I didn't see it.
Yeah, and not just your starting quarterback, but a guy being tossed around for Heisman, the face of the program. I mean, this is the guy who, we could say it. I mean, South Carolina had a wonderful season last year because he cracked the code of quarterback.
Yep.
The defense is only going to take you so far. They needed him on offense to keep that thing moving forward. And to lose him as suddenly as you did, I mean, you're right. You could feel the air come out of Williams-Brice. And just maybe it wouldn't come out of Williams-Brice. It was just inhaled by Vanderbilt.
Yep. Yeah, maybe so.
They were on a heater. Vanderbilt's on a heater, dude.
Yeah.
That's all you can say. The worst possible thing that can happen to South Carolina happened. How do they recover going forward to a pretty good Missouri team?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it doesn't get any easier from here. And we'll certainly break down that matchup a lot more as the week goes along. But we looked at these first 5 games of the season and said, okay, here's your path where you have to get off to a good start because you have a daunting task ahead of you. Once October hits, LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, Clemson, all those teams that are going to be on the back half of your schedule that are not going to be easy, with several of those games being on the road. And we were hoping at worst you're, 4-1 coming out of the first 5 games. And we thought that toughest challenge might be Missouri on the road for the first, true road test. And now your mulligan's already out the window, because if let's just assume you're able to beat Kentucky in week number 5, if you're 3-2 coming out of this first 5-game stretch, I mean, you're really scratching and clawing to get yourself to that 6-7 win mark just to guarantee yourself a spot in the postseason. Like, you're already behind the 8 ball a little bit from where you wanted to be by losing this game to Vanderbilt. And it's one of the statistical anomalies where you outgained them by 5 yards, 328 to 323, and still lost by 24 points. Like, that is something that should never happen. And if you were just looking at the final score of the game, you would have thought that Vanderbilt completely obliterated Carolina, which they didn't. They played better. I'll give them that. But Carolina had opportunities. They just couldn't cash in on them.
Well, and you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're allowing them to extend those drives so you don't have the ball on your hand. You're committing not only penalties, but you're committing pre-snap penalties.
Again, for the 3rd week in a row, pre-snap, not as many as last week or in the week prior, if I remember correctly, but still, these are things that should not be happening, especially at home, right? You're at home. You shouldn't be getting false start penalties at as high a clip as Carolina is.
The tenets of football, and I tell everybody this. I said, if you want to see the story of a game, there are 3 things to look at, Tyler, and I'm sure you already know them, but it bears repeating right now. 3rd downs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Turnovers. Penalties. South Carolina was in the negative on all that.
Yes.
All that. You're not going to win football games that way. That explains the time of possession, and it ultimately explains the final score.
Yeah, it ultimately does. And again, this isn't your run-of-the-mill Vanderbilt team that's going to go out there and finish the season, 4-8. Like, they're good, and give them credit for being good, but it shouldn't have ended up looking the way that it did. And there's a lot of things to pick apart from this game, and rightfully so, which we'll get to coming up here in a moment. We'll also get your reactions. Firehouse Subs text line 803-404-6100, as well as the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. As Reaction Monday rolls along, as a breakdown, South Carolina's first loss of the season, 31-7 to Vanderbilt on Saturday, as the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina rolls along on your Monday on the Game. Ty Red here for our friends over at Old Timey Meat Market. And there's no better way to cheer on the Gamecocks than with your own Traeger grill. You can grill with the family and friends, or if you're going to be going to some of the home games coming up, you can head out there to the stadium and have your own tailgating experience too. An Old Timey Meat Market has plenty of Traeger grills in stock, also with plenty of pellets, rub sauces, and accessories too. Come on by Old Timey Meat Market in Lexington to take a look at the many sizes of Traeger grills. Old Timey Meat Market and Traeger grills, a perfect combination. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler and Scott Hamilton along with you here on your Reaction Monday, coming off the heels of South Carolina's first loss of the season, 31-7 to the Vanderbilt Commodores over at Williams-Brice Stadium. Of course, one of the hot button issues coming away from this game has been for all three games so far this year is the play calling of Mike Shula and the functionality of this offense. And I'm convinced Mike Shula might be the best opening drive script play caller we've ever seen, because typically the opening drives are phenomenal, as it was in the game one against Virginia Tech, and just like it was on Saturday night where Carolina pretty quickly hums down the field, had the long throw to Jordan Dingle on the bootleg to start the game, couple design runs by Sellers, and ultimately you get yourself in the end zone, and then you score no more points after that. I will say this, though. Unlike the other two games where Carolina scored on its opening touchdown or its opening drive against Virginia Tech and then did all of nothing for the better part of 2.5 quarters the rest of that game until they finally kicked it into gear in the fourth quarter against Virginia Tech, or like last week where they started out with three straight 3-and-outs against SC State before finally getting something rolling when the second half rolled around. They at least moved the ball decently on Saturday. It wasn't amazing, but they were at least able to have multiple plays per drive instead of going 3-and-out. They crossed the 50-yard line 7 times. They got inside Vanderbilt's 20, I believe, 4 times in that game. Unfortunately, they came away with only 7 points at the end of all that because the execution at the end of drives is what the problem was, whether it be, the interception thrown by Sellers when he was in there where I guess he didn't see the nose tackle dropping, made the incorrect read, trying to dump it off to Oscar Attaway. We had a touchdown a little bit further down the field with Jordan Dingle, who was basically running free into the end zone. Doty had the strip sack where the protection broke down. Augustave had the fumble, had another interception, at the very end of the game. So, again, they at least moved the ball a little bit better. But, again, they just could not close out drives, and a couple of turnovers on downs as well. They just could not close out drives to save their life on Saturday.
I wonder if the scripting of the opening drive harkens back to his NFL background, because you think back to UNC playing TCU opening week, and the one great drive they had was that opening drive, and that's the fingerprints of an NFL. Bill Walsh, let's script things out. But here's the thing. The game plan didn't need to be altered that much. No. Because skill set wise, they're comparable players. Now, different levels. Sure. Sellers' arm is stronger. Sellers faster, more powerful runner, but they're both mobile quarterbacks. So the game plan would presumably be adaptable to either one. But what really painted South Carolina in a corner was these turnovers. Mm-hmm. The turnovers changed the complexion of the game because it allowed Vanderbilt, once it became a 1-possession game, a 2-possession game, a 3-possession game, Vanderbilt then is playing with house money and able to do a lot of different things with regards to rushing the passer, so on and so forth. And then all bets are off when it comes to calling a game.
Well,
bets are off.
I was going to say, here's the frustrating thing that everybody's rightfully bringing up. When you look at the success of that first drive, much like it was in the game against Virginia Tech to start the season, you see elements and plays that work that don't end up making any kind of appearance later on in the game as well. And to me, I've never been an offensive coordinator or called plays at any kind of level, but I always assumed that you're scripting out a drive or the first couple of drives of the game to get a feel for what you're going to be able to get away with, get a feel for where the defense is at and what kind of things might work. So when you have that bootleg that was 33 yards to Jordan Dingle to start the game, okay, maybe that's something you want to do. Didn't do that for the rest of the game, to my knowledge, at least when Sellers was in there. And then you had 2 designed runs to Lenore Sellers, which has been the thing that everybody's been screaming about since the start of the season, because it's very clear he's a different quarterback this time around than he was a year ago, because he doesn't have the same freedoms to run like he did with Dow Loggins a year ago. And when you saw those couple runs on the first drive, you think, okay, there's something there, and he was able to get positive yards out of both of those. And then they never did that again for the rest of the drive when he was in the game. Even when Doty, who is also a mobile quarterback, I think most of his runs, with the exception of like 1 or 2, were just when he left the pocket and scrambled. So again, there's just for whatever reason, and maybe this goes back to what Shula's MO the offseason was, trying to make Sellers a better all-around quarterback, because you can see when he's in the pocket, in some of those plays last year would have taken off and ran and maybe made something crazy happen with his feet. He's sitting back. Now, that's not the wrong choice necessarily, because you do want to keep your eyes down the field and try and find guys open, but it does seem like he's almost kind of stuck, right? Where it's like, I know he can get out and make a play happen with his feet, but he knows he's not supposed to, so that's why he's staying in there, and we're not getting the same results on offense that we want to, and that's where people's frustrations are coming in with the way that the Shula era's OC has started.
Yeah, his mind are speaking over his feet. His mind is speaking over his feet.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty harsh critic of Shula, but I will say this. When you are putting in things like bootlegs and so forth early in a game, that's to set other things up. You're not going to go back to that because they already seen that. They're going to be ready for that. And the whole point of it is to set something up they can exploit on down the road.
Right.
But that never really materialized either.
Yeah.
So that's the rub of all this. What do? You stick with what you saw works, even though they're going to be more aware of it, or do you actually stick to your plan of what that's supposed to set up and execute it? We didn't see either.
Yeah, and I will say this. I'll give the offensive line credit because it looked better. Now, that was not a high bar to clear because they had a rough first couple games, but in going back and rewatching the game yesterday, there was a lot of very clean pockets for Sellers. There were some good clean pockets for Luke Doty as well. Now, yeah, the caveat is on the play that Sellers ended up getting hurt on, Travon Ball decided to go with the double team on the nose tackle with Boaz Stanley that allowed, Patterson, the free rusher, to come in untouched and just drill Lenore Sellers right in the jaw. So, again, far from perfect, still a lot of things to work on. You got some push up front that allowed you to run the ball okay. Faison still did have to make some moves and make guys miss either in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage. So you're far from being a finished product of the offensive line. But I can say in going over the film, it did look better than it had the first two games. So some credit is due there, I guess.
Yeah, but again, low bar.
Very low bar. Very low bar. So, but
build on it.
At least it is some kind of progress, right?
Here's the thing, and before we go to break, let's think about this. This was one that we assumed they would win because A, it's Vandy, and B, we thought South Carolina would be more evolved, more developed at this point in the season.
Sure.
Does it mean it still can't happen? And perhaps what happens on the back end is what occurred last year, where they win games that we had no idea they were going to win.
Yep.
Is there a game on the back half of the schedule that we can say now, okay, they've got to win this one? I don't know, though. I look at it like Texas A&M looks really good.
Yes.
LSU is really good. I don't know. Every other part of the first half of the schedule was so perfect, Tyler, because you had Missouri was presumably going to be the most difficult. Then you got the bye week before hitting the home stretch.
Yep.
Now they've got to steal one on the back.
Yeah, you really felt like it's set up well. And again, Beamer coach teams play their best football as the season rolls along into October, into November, and all that kind of stuff. And you're obviously going to need it to deal with that schedule. But again, this was a year that you came in with the hopes of making the college football playoff. You were ranked where you were ranked to begin the season for a reason, because people, including yourself, that vote on the AP poll thought this team had the capabilities of backing up what they did a year ago and being one of the 12-ish best teams in the country. And you're not that as of right now. And again, if you drop to 0-2 in conference play and 2-2 on the season this upcoming weekend at Missouri, your margin for error pretty much becomes zero down the stretch, where you're going to have to go, including Kentucky, 8-0, if nothing else, at worst 7-1 to close out the season if you want anything resembling a playoff type of run for this team to get into the postseason. And again, crazy things happen in college football. That would be a daunting task for any team, let alone one at South Carolina that we talked about on Friday. I still don't know what their offensive identity is, right? And this was before Sellers got hurt, and we knew you were going to be playing with Luke Doty for the better part of, two and a half or the better part of 2 quarters in the game on Saturday. I don't know what this team is trying to do. I don't know what this team hangs its hat on. And you better figure that out in the next couple weeks, because if you go into Baton Rouge, and yeah, LSU's offense isn't exactly firing on all cylinders as of right now, but their defense is playing well. If you go in there and don't have an identity on offense, you may struggle to score 7 points in that game.
Any other time, I would say, oh, this is okay. Look at that running back room. They'll lean on that. It's going to be wonderful. But as you said, the offensive line still a work in progress. Now, maybe this was the get right game for the offensive line. Maybe they come out of this and they say, oh, the light bulb goes off. Here's what we have to do. They're going to count on us now. I don't know. I mean, and we still don't know with Sellers. I mean, what happens if Sellers is out?
That's the $1 million question. Yeah, and again, and Beamer alluded to it in his teleconference yesterday. There was discussions of Aaron Noland and or Cutter Woods maybe coming in the game late on Saturday, which didn't end up happening. And my thought was, what do you got to lose, right? You're already out of it. There was no way you're going to have some kind of miracle comeback. If Sellers is out for the long term, I don't know if Luke Doty, I don't know how far Luke Doty takes you offensively. And yeah, he does have more experience than the other guys, but I would have liked to have at least seen, like, hey, give Air a drive. Maybe he sparks something on offense that can give you an indication that maybe he's your better option. I don't know. I just would have liked to have seen something attempted at the end of the game when you were otherwise out of it.
If Luke Doty was the answer, he would already be the quarterback. He's a sixth-year senior, for goodness sakes. And the last time we saw Luke Doty take serious snaps, what was his Zeb still on the roster?
Yeah, that would have been like he came in garbage time in 23.
Garbage time.
Yeah, I don't recall any serious snaps that he took in 22 because Rattler played that whole year. So yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy that haven't played meaningful quarterback snaps in almost 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
And I don't understand the point of not bringing in an Aaron Noland because, I mean, it's already garbage time. You're losing this game. Now's your opportunity to figure out, what is your plan B? Do they have a plan B? Have they had a plan B? Are they not ready to launch plan B? This could have happened. You and I talked about it a lot. Again, it's the doomsday scenario, dude. What do they do?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't feel great right now. Hopefully we get some good news, turn things around this week in regards to Sellers' injury. But as of right now, definitely a tough day. We'll get to some of your reactions on the Firehouse Subs text line and dive into what happened on the flats in Atlanta with that other team from the upstate. Coming up next as the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina rolls along on your Reaction Monday here on the game.
It's not enough winning football. Told the team before the game, Vanderbilt, that's a team you got to go beat. They're not going to give you anything, and we didn't do that tonight. Way too much self-inflicted stuff. Injury-wise, don't have an update for you on Lenoris or Kaysen, and questions.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton hanging out with you on your reaction Monday, and that was Coach Beamer giving his overall thoughts on the game on Saturday night, where they just didn't play enough winning football in their 31-7 loss to Vanderbilt. Pete weighs in on our Firehouse Subs text line and says the biggest issue was that for 4 quarters, Vanderbilt played more physical football, period. Forget the quarterback being knocked out and forget play calling. They played more physically than South Carolina. And that's something that we talked about going into the game, especially in concern to South Carolina's defense, that Vanderbilt's push up front, especially against Virginia Tech in week number 2, was incredible, where they were just blowing those guys off the line of scrimmage, and obviously running the ball down their throat, especially in the second half of that game. And that is something that will wear you down, right? And Vanderbilt's defensive plan was to do the same thing. They also, I think, just schemed up South Carolina's defense a whole lot better, to where they went away from Dylan Stewart, which frustrated him. We'll get to that coming up here in a minute. And they just made sure that they kept Carolina's defense consistently on its toes, forced them into making mistakes, which included missed tackles and all those other kind of things that were a reason why they were able to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it was death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it was just death by attrition. They just kept pounding and pounding and pounding and extending those drives. And when your defense is on the field for what, 35 minutes? Was it 35 minutes?
Yeah, yep.
Of physical football, that's going to take a toll on you. And eventually Vanderbilt could just do what it wanted, when it wanted, however it wanted. And that you can't win like that. You cannot win like that. And it's concerning because the onus is not on the defense as much as it is on the offense to extend drives. And it goes back to your earlier point, playing physical football along the trenches.
And you know, one of the matchups, one of the things we talked about going into the week was that Vanderbilt is a team that had gotten a lot better with their explosive plays, particularly when it came to passing the ball from a season ago, and they hit you for 4 of those on Saturday, and then had 4 explosive runs as well, including the 44-yard touchdown run by Lassiter on his 1 touch that he got in the game. And that was in the third quarter, where I don't know how worn down the defense was at that point in time, but that was definitely one of their worst mistakes of the entire game in terms of letting him run by without really even getting a hand on him. So yeah, the physicality is something that definitely was on display from Vanderbilt's side of things. That we talked about this with Alabama a couple weeks ago. That's something that has to be ingrained in a team in the offseason, your preparation, conditioning, and all those kind of things. And I hope Carolina is close enough to where they can at least get that turned around, because you're going to need it this upcoming weekend going on the road against Missouri for the first time.
Isn't it kind of funny how teams that have a chip on their shoulder usually play more physical?
That is. And look, Carolina's not used to being favored, right? They're typically the underdog in a lot of their matchups, regardless of what the rankings or spreads say or something like this. And I think a lot of people looked at it and said, yeah, Vandy's like good, but they shouldn't be able to beat Carolina. And Vandy came in here like the scrappy underdog that they were, and came in here and took it to them. And again, now Carolina's not going to be favored in a whole lot of matchups going forward. So now you have the opportunity, I guess, to be the underdog.
Oh, did you see the spread for this week?
Yes, 12.5.
12.5?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I see exactly how they arrived at that number.
I can't even argue with it. No,
I can't.
I can't even argue with it. It's 12.5.
Yeah.
Go back in the Wayback Machine to Friday. Would you have said it would have been 12.5? I would have said Missouri minus 2.5.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
12.5.
I don't know. When they're at home, you always give them, 5-6 points or something like that. But yeah, I didn't foresee coming away from the weekend where I'd look at a double-digit spread and say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I get it.
Well, and I wonder this though, and maybe we should put something down on this. How much of it is predicated upon the uncertainty of Lenoir Sellers?
I think that has a lot to do with it. If Beamer comes out tomorrow and says, "Hey, Sellers is good to go," that number probably comes down to, I don't know, maybe like 9 or something like that. But I still think, because here's the thing, Shula's offenses are averaging like 14 points a game. You can't go into Como and only have 14 points and win that game. You know what I mean?
Are we going to see an end to the trophy streak?
Uh,
We'll talk about that Friday.
the streak of one.
Well, no, because he won the trophy games last year.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about
Neither
the
one of
Mayor's
them.
Cup specifically. Yeah, the trophy games. Yeah, he does have a little bit of a run right now between Palmetto, Bonham, and the Mayor's Cup. So it's in jeopardy.
And
They'll
the
have
helmet.
and the helmet.
The thing in Atlanta.
Well,
It counts.
well, the bowl game, that was a trophy. You didn't win that one.
I don't count. Yeah, it
Okay,
counts.
all
It's
right.
Full of snacks. Doesn't
It-
count.
Either way, more to get to with this game, but also another big game from over the weekend that maybe made Carolina fans feel a little bit better as they were going to bed on Saturday night. Cut number 23 here, Ed. This happened in Atlanta.
On this from 55. The snap is off. It is on the way. It's got the distance.
Georgia Tech on a fire drill field goal as time is expiring pulls off the 24-21 win over a then number 12 Clemson team. And don't worry, we'll get to the AP poll coming up here in just a minute as well. But officially puts Clemson under 500 at 1-2 to start the season.
It's the first time since 2014
Yes.
they've been in that position. And I was at that game, and I'm going to tell you something. We talk about physical football.
Mhm.
Georgia Tech is a physical football team, and they play with a chip on their shoulder. And they just, I came away from there so impressed.
Georgia Tech wants to take you into the back alley and fight you to the death. You might come out winning, but you're going to be battered, bruised, and probably missing a couple teeth. That's the way that Brent Key has got that Georgia Tech football team playing, and you saw that on display. I'd argue that Clemson was definitely the more talented team on the field, but Georgia Tech played a better game.
Well, they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You look at Clemson's roster, and we're like, wow, these guys, they're all dudes, man, across the board. The NFL draft is going to be littered with Clemson Tigers. So
Sure.
they won.
Sure.
They won. There could be 3 or 4 guys go on the first day of the NFL draft. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be good in college on a team, but those guys individually are NFL worthy. But something is amiss. And I don't know if it's injury related. I don't know if it's schematically. Maybe these guys aren't that good. I don't know. Something's wrong.
They have not figured out this season that football games are 60 minutes in total length because they were MIA for a lot of the second half against LSU. They didn't wake up for the first half against Troy last week and then played a pretty bad first half against Georgia Tech, save for a 4th-and-goal touchdown right at the end of the first half. There to make the game at least one score going into halftime. They have not put together, forget a full game, they've not put together 3/4 of a game so far this year. And again, you're going to face a lot of challenges as the season rolls along with your ACC schedule. If you want any shot of getting to the college ball playoff again, you've got to straighten this up real quick.
So it's 14-13 Clemson, 4th quarter. Georgia Tech goes on a 13-play, 90-yard drive. The only teams that can do that, Tyler, are teams that can exert their will.
Yes, and they
Only
did.
teams.
They did.
They did. They went down and scored. And then, of course, Clemson, to its credit, came back, tied the game. Adam Randall run. But again, Georgia Tech got the ball back.
Yep.
Went down. And I know the field goal was a monster field goal. We need to get used to that, by the way. Athletes have evolved to the point where a 55-yard field goal is not that out of the norm anymore.
Sure.
But they let Georgia Tech put itself in that position to win because they just disappeared.
We'll get to this on the other side to wrap up the hour. I think Dabo Swinney could have handled that situation a lot better at the end of the game, too, which we'll get to in just a second. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina on your Reaction Monday. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Scott Hamilton, along with you here on your Reaction Monday. Reminder, Lower Lisa Special Teams Contest rolls on. The Gamecocks can score a special teams touchdown this upcoming weekend. You could win $200 thanks to our friends over at Lower Lisa. Just go online to 1075thegame.com. Click on the Lower Lisa tab and register if you haven't already for the Lower Lisa Special Teams Contest. We're talking about what happened with Clemson and Georgia Tech over the weekend, and one thing that really surprised me was Georgia Tech had to run a fire drill field goal where they had no timeouts, had to trot the guy out there on third down and make him kick the 55-yarder, which he did. And obviously, the fans rushed the field. The rest is history. But I look at this from a Clemson perspective where when Tech had no timeouts left, they get the ball to, I guess, would that be the 42-yard line or the 37-yard line, I guess. And the clock is rolling. Clemson has 2 timeouts. They could have called a timeout there with about 20-ish seconds left. That way, A, if Burr still makes the field goal, there's time left on the clock for them to get the ball back and do something with it. Or B, let's say Burr misses the field goal, then you have the ball essentially almost at midfield, and you have a timeout where you can, try and make something happen and get your own kicker into range. And I think they completely mismanaged that. Again, you don't get to take the timeouts with you into the next game. They don't roll over. That's a mistake that I feel like Dabo Swinney should not be making this deep into his head coaching tenure.
Yeah, and especially when you have a kicker like Nolan Hauser who hit that bomb to beat SMU in the ACC championship game. I mean, you're only one quick play away from putting him in his range.
Yep.
But, yeah, he kind of fumbled. But Dabo's explanation also made some sense that he knew it was going to be a hectic situation, that it would be a fire drill situation, and he didn't want to give them any assist. And he was counting on them. He was playing for overtime, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing.
And I can understand that. And hindsight is 2020, obviously. And I don't know. Do you believe in icing the kicker? Or are you an icing the kicker type of person?
I am.
Okay.
I am, just because it's all I know.
Yeah.
I don't know really any different.
Yeah. And again, at least in that situation, maybe you ice them or maybe it does give them time just to, settle a little bit more and it's not, not as chaotic. So, I mean, I think you could be, as long as he made the field goal, you can be critical either way of it. But it's one of those things like, man, it's got to bug you going into the locker room after losing, knowing you had 2 timeouts that could have worked to your advantage if that's the way you chose to play it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, there were so many things they were having to deal with at that moment. Nobody in their right mind expected it to come down to Georgia Tech winning with a field goal as time expired. Nobody except Georgia Tech.
No, definitely not.
And Dabo's got 8,000 things going through his head at that moment.
Sure.
I will say this. One positive I got out of the game was Adam Randall is starting to really evolve into a running back.
Yeah,
he's not a running back.
He looked better. So that was
way better.
Was a plus.
And he saved their bacon when they had was it 3rd and 30 or 3rd and 23, 3rd and 33, and they. I mean, granted, Georgia Tech was in a prevent defense, which the saying is prevents you from winning the game.
Of course.
But he still burst through the line, made that run. But otherwise, that was really the only positive I got out of that game. And Will Heat, the transfer from Purdue, he's a dude. He's a dude.
And with both those losses for Carolina and Clemson, they both tumble out of the AP Top 25. We've seen some aggressive falls. I don't recall too often teams this far into the season going from being in the top 12 to just being unranked in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. I don't have them ranked. I had Clemson number 2 on my preseason ballot.
Yep.
I don't have them ranked now. Here's the thing, though. I do have Notre Dame 25th, and they ended up being 24th.
Okay.
And Notre Dame is 0-2
against two really good teams
by a combined 4 points.
Yeah,
5 points. Yeah, something ridiculous like that. So it's a situation where I still think they're better than a lot of 3-0 teams.
By the way, Tyler Buckner skipped class today, right? He had to.
God bless his heart. God bless his heart.
That's
SEC shorts this morning. They were even making fun of him.
Of all ways to lose a game, that one's up there as one of the most brutal. You're a holder. fumbles the snap, and the other team proceeds to drive down the field and score a touchdown with an extra point to beat you. That's a tough one to swallow.
I'll give you the second one. Not kicking the field goal, but getting greedy and deciding, we want to go ahead and center it up perfectly so our kicker can do it. And then you get a penalty, puts you back, and he misses the field goal, and you end up losing.
Yeah, that's tough. And Notre Dame's in an interesting spot now with being 0-2 to start the season and needing to pretty much be perfect if they want to make the college football playoff. We'll get back into more of Carolina. Talk a little bit of Dylan Stewart, as it was a frustrating night for him on Saturday, as well as other things that happened around college football in week number 3. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler and Scott Hamilton on Your Reaction Monday on the game. All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. It's all right, and Scott Hamilton along with you here on your Reaction Monday, looking back at Carolina's 31-7 loss to Vanderbilt over the weekend that, again, tumbled them completely out of the AP Top 25. Want to get some of your reactions as well on the Firehouse Subs text line at 803-404-6100. Nameless texter asked, is Stewart getting held a bunch? I saw him getting tackled by linemen a lot. There was a handful of times where I think you could have easily seen some holding calls get caught on Stewart that didn't happen. Again, Vanderbilt schemed away from him, which was the smart thing to do. He's the most dominant player, and try and get the ball as far away from him as possible. And I think we saw the frustration set in as the game went along. You had the situation where he got called for roughing the passer, where he kind of took the extra step and shoved Diego Pavia. You know, that's a ticky-tack type of call that could have easily not been called, but it got called. And then you had the situation where he was ejected from the game for getting physical with Henderson, or what is his name? Henderson, the offensive tackle. Bryce Henderson, the offensive tackle that had been talking about him earlier on this week in their respective media availability. So it's very clear Vandy got inside his head, right? And look, I appreciate playing with passion. I appreciate playing hard and wanting to shut those guys up. But you got to be smart as well. And I think, again, we've had this conversation with him before, going back to when he did the gun celebration down 20 points against Ole Miss last year, I think it was. You just got to, be mature and be smart in those situations to not cost your team more. Because, again, you're the best player on defense. They do not need to lose you for any period of time. So, I get frustration. I get it. The night didn't go the way you wanted it to, but you got to hold your composure in those moments.
Yeah, I mean, he's, as much as we talk about Lenore Sellers being the face of the team, he's the face of a team too. I mean, he's a generational talent on the other side of the football. And teams are going, as you said, teams are going to scheme away from him. He's accountable on every play, no matter what they're trying to do. He's important. And he needs to realize his importance. And he's going to get his sacks. He's going to make his plays. But he also needs to realize that he cannot be doing things to vent his frustration to the detriment of the team. Now, Henderson, I look at a picture of Henderson, I want to punch his face. He has a punchable face. Yeah, I get it.
Sure.
And he ran his mouth all week. I mean, the stuff he was saying, you go on Twitter, now called X. You can go on there and see some of the things he posted. And I'm sure there was smack talking during the game.
Oh, definitely. And I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him that he probably said something to Stewart prior to Stewart, going after him that ended up getting him kicked out of the game. Like, I would not be surprised in the least that happens. And as we know, in football, it's typically the reaction that gets, the flag and the penalty and all that kind of stuff more than the initial, aggressor on those situations.
Yeah. He's just got to do better, and he's got to just maintain his composure, especially when you have those long drives.
Yes.
Those long drives, it's easy to get fatigued. It's easy to get frustrated. And it's even more frustrating when you are the kind of player that Dylan Stewart is.
Sure.
But you can't do anything because it's on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
They're scheming away from you. It's out of your hands.
Yeah. Again, I'm hoping that's a teachable moment for him that he can use to be better going forward. Because, again, you don't need him getting himself ejected from any period of time, on this defense. And that's something, going back to the trash talk part of Vanderbilt, and it wasn't just this week. It was Pavia in the offseason talking about circling Game 3, and obviously this being a big deal with iShow Speed and Theo Vaughn hanging out at their practice earlier in the week. Theo Vaughn was on the sidelines and apparently gets a date with Diego Pavia's mom because of the win.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that works out. But that's where this loss kind of goes to another level. Is it is this team that, again, we're still inclined in our brains to be like, this is Vanderbilt. They shouldn't have this kind of arrogance and confidence about them, though they do. But they talked the talk all week, and they came in on Saturday and walked the walk. And I think that adds just a little more fuel to the fire of what was already a tough loss. But when, that's the team that was chirping, that was the team that was talking, and they came in here and reinforced what they said, that makes it tougher.
Well, you have to wonder, was South Carolina looking to Missouri already? And it sounds crazy.
I hope not. I really hope not.
Who could blame them, though? I mean, again, we are still focused on it's Vanderbilt.
Sure.
That's still part of our thinking. We can't help it. It's ingrained in our minds. Missouri coming up, they had this whatever you want to call it against South Carolina State. It's almost like that game didn't happen, given how the weather delays and all that. It's like, well, let's just put that in the back shelf. It never happened. And this game meant more to Vanderbilt than it did to South Carolina coming in. And I think the result speaks to that.
If Carolina would have, let's say, beaten Virginia Tech, 45-7 in week number 1, and they'd have beaten South Carolina State 63-7 in week number 2, then I could maybe buy a little bit of, hey, they've been almost flawless to start the season. They're looking ahead to the road challenge against Missouri. Maybe they just didn't take Vandy seriously enough. But when you've had the struggles that this team's had, namely offensively through the first 2 games, there is nobody you should be taking lightly. There's no team that you feel like isn't capable of beating you, because you as an offense are struggling to score 17 points a game, which in the SEC, that ain't going to cut it. And as great as it was in the first 2 games where you had Fakari Swain returning punts and bailing you out, and the defense getting scoop and scores like last week against SC State, those are just things you can't rely on every single game to put more points on the board. You as an offense have to be functional enough to score into the high 20s and 30s to be able to win in this league. And it's going to take a lot to flip that switch between now and over the course of the next couple weeks. And I think we're all concerned if they're going to be able to do that or not.
I'm sorry. I'm distracted by this whole Diego Pavia mom thing.
You didn't know about that?
I had heard about it, but I'm going down the rabbit hole now.
But by the way, we did see Pavia's 2 brothers when we were doing our pregame show at Jay's Corner. I'm assuming they were just walking around looking for what was going on, and there's a dude standing in front of our table with a Pavia flag draped over his back. And I went to Terry. I'm like, it was 2 of them. I was like, I think those are Pavia's brothers. They looked a lot like him. And sure enough, later on in the game, they showed him in the stands, or I saw a picture of those guys in the crowd. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was his brothers.
Why would he do this? Why would he pimp his mom out like this? And what did he get? What did he get if they lost? He's obviously rewarding this guy if Vanderbilt wins, but was there another side of this coin?
That I don't know. And Theo Vaughn's explanation was he's always wanted to date a nurse because they're the nicest people. So I'll be interested to see how Diego follows up on this. And I don't know. We haven't heard his mom talk about it. I'm assuming she's cool with it.
Yeah, I'm looking at a quote now from Vaughn. He goes, yeah, that's true. She is a nurse. My goal is that I would like to marry a nurse one day. So that's why Pavia was thinking about that. I'd like to be his friend, not end up being his stepdad. And if he wrecks his mom.
That is that is the exact type of response I would expect out of Theo Vaughn.
I didn't even know who Theo Vaughn was. I'm just going to throw that out there.
You didn't know who he was?
Oh, man, I'm a 50-year-old male that watches the History Channel and Seinfeld.
Yeah, but you have like Twitter. You've come across this stuff before, right?
No. Oh. Again, I'm following informative things. I'm not looking at this guy. Now, Bill Burr. I know Bill Burr.
Okay, well, I mean, he's a comedian also. Like his stuff's funny. I think it's good stuff. I'd recommend checking it out. But yeah, that was a little subplot to Saturday. You could see him down there on the sidelines. Yeah, it was definitely interesting to say the least. And I don't know what happens now with the mom saga.
He's 45. Okay, I thought he was much younger. Check this out. His full name is Theodore, no E at the end.
Yes.
Theodore Capitini von Kurnatowski III.
Yes.
And then Pavia's mom is Antoinette Padilla. I want a reality show now.
I say you're learning all these things in real time. I knew what his full name was a while ago.
I'm not as hip as you. I bet you watch like Bridgerton and shows like that too.
God, no. That's not my speed.
Peaky Blinders. You're a Peaky Blinder guy, aren't you?
I barely have time to watch all the sports content that I need to. You think I have time for regular TV?
I watch a lot of Dateline.
Dateline's good. My wife likes
like
Dateline.
2 hours a night.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I wouldn't go that extreme, but Dateline's good. I appreciate that.
I have a friend who's going to be featured on a Dateline pretty soon.
Well, I hope that's for a good reason.
No, man, it's awful. I'll tell you off air.
Okay, yes, please do. Anyways, we'll get back into what happened in week 3 around college football. There were some pretty huge games happening, including one where College Game Day was up in Knoxville. That's coming up next. It is the Halftime Show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Scott Hamilton, hanging out with you on your Monday on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Scott Hamilton along with you here on the game. We'll get to what else happened in week 3 of college football coming up here in just a moment. We do, though, however, have a little bit of an update in terms of South Carolina and their next home game, which is going to be against Kentucky, not this weekend, but the following weekend. Sounds like we're going to be back under the lights once again for a late kick on the SEC network.
And let's just go ahead and check the weather report. After the last time that happened, you had a very late night.
Well, fortunately on Saturday, everything was good. It was actually, the weather was almost kind of perfect on Saturday. Nice little breeze, didn't get too hot, and did cool off nicely once the game finally started. So, yeah, going to be another late one. Hopefully it's not as late as game number 1 when they return home, not this weekend, but next weekend. And I really hope they go into that game 3-1 and not 2-2. Because that is the point where I think the optimism might really start to slide if you have back-to-back losses to start conference play.
Yeah, and you talk about guys who could use that more than the other. I mean, Mark Stoops would love nothing more than to beat Kentucky for myriad reasons. First of all, his little beef with Shane that might or might not be real. I think it's legit.
Yeah,
and also just his own job security. I mean, that guy. His buyout is literally the only thing saving him right now. The buyout. Otherwise, that dude would be so far gone. And it's not a good job.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know who would take that job if they did fire him, because you're second fiddle to the sport of basketball, and you always will be. Elsewhere around college football, game day was in Knoxville this past weekend. Boy, howdy, that was a barn burner of a game, and it almost ended when this happened.
Drives it. It's fading. And he missed it wide to the right.
Max Gilbert lines up for the game-winning field goal for Tennessee and ends up hooking it, sending the game into overtime. He would make almost the exact same field goal to start overtime, and then Georgia would proceed to score a couple plays later on their possession to walk out 44-41 winners, as now for the 9th straight year, Georgia's beaten Tennessee. The only time Kirby's lost him was in that first year where we had the Dobnail boot. Hail Mary there at the end of the game, and once again, a Heupel team gets out to a lead. They got up 21-7 in this one, and found a way to still end up losing it, as after that third touchdown, Georgia really had them shut down for the better part of the middle half of that game. They put a couple scores up late there in the fourth quarter. Kind of went back and forth, but Georgia still walks out the winner and 3-0 to start the season.
I really have no problem with. I kept Tennessee on my ballot. I think I have them number 17.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't move them for losing. I did not penalize them for losing because they lost to a really good Georgia team that we're still figuring out, and I think they're still figuring out.
Right.
But also, they scored 40-plus points on a Kirby Smart team. Yeah. That means you're bona fide, dude. You've got some abilities, and Tennessee just has to continue figuring it out. I will not be shocked. I'm going to throw this out there. I would not be shocked to see Tennessee again in the playoff.
Yeah.
This isn't a damning loss.
No, it's not by any means. And gosh, you could see a pathway where Georgia and Tennessee could see each other in Atlanta before the playoff even gets here, if both those teams can end up being as good as we think. And I, like many people, looked at Tennessee following Nico's departure and said, all right, this is probably going to be like maybe a down year. Maybe you go 7-5 and kind of reset and get back on your feet in 2026. But my goodness, Joey Aguilar has come in and done a really good job. His problem, and this was the concern with him coming out of App State when he initially went to UCLA and then came to Tennessee, was his interceptions are typically really, really bad. And you saw a couple of those on Saturday as well. So that's something that he was still not quite worked out the kinks of, but when he is playing his best, those guys are flying up and down the field just like you expect a Josh Heupel offense to do. So Tennessee's going to win a lot of games this year. Tennessee may very well beat Alabama yet again for the third time in 4 years, with the way that they're playing like this. They've not beaten them in Bryant-Denny since the 2000s, because the last 2 wins have been in Neyland Stadium, so they might be able to check that box off coming up later on this year. But no, that's a good team. I will say this. I think Gunnar Stockton proved himself in a lot of ways in that game, Look, he's limited as a quarterback, and I thought it was very telling when right before halftime, Georgia had a Hail Mary throw to the end zone, and they brought in Ryan Puglisi to do that. They did not even let Gunnar Stockton heave the ball to the end zone from the 50-yard line, which I think speaks volumes to what they think about his downfield throwing potential. That being said, 4th and 6, and Mike Bobo had some guts to call this. Instead of throwing to the sticks and just opting for the first down, they go for an over-the-shoulder into the end zone with London Humphreys that is thrown perfectly and caught perfectly to, at that point, make it a 2-point game, tied it with a 2-point conversion, and obviously go on to win. That was a bold call.
3 things. 1, Gunnar Stockton doesn't have to be more than what we've seen. He really doesn't. That's not the MO for a Kirby Smart team.
No.
He doesn't have to be the reason they win. He doesn't have to be the reason they lose. 2, Joey Aguiar, we got to remember, he's only been in that offense for a few months.
Yep.
I mean, came over with basically the trade for Nico, which has worked out wonderfully for one team. It's got the other team fired. The coach is fired. So I'm buying Joey Aguiar stock. And I'm buying, here's another reason I'm buying Tennessee stock. Tyler, listen to this. Listen to this. They have UAB next.
Mm-hmm.
Then Mississippi State, Arkansas, at Bama, you're talking about, third Saturday in October. Kentucky, Oklahoma in Knoxville, New Mexico State, at Florida, who will probably have an interim coach at that point.
Yeah.
And then Vanderbilt rolls into Neyland. How many losses do you hear there? Oklahoma, maybe it's in Neyland.
Yeah, Oklahoma, that's going to be tough.
Bama.
The Alabama game is always tricky, sure. I don't see them having any more than 1 or 2 there. And again, even if you lose those games, as long as you're not getting blown out, you're still making your resume look good, especially for an Oklahoma that we think is really, really good, right? So as long as you're making it tight in those games that you do lose. And this is kind of one of those things, and I think a lot of people thought the way you did with the way they viewed Tennessee in the AP poll. It's like, all right, your kicker let you down at the very end of the game, but you did everything else to put yourself in position to win after, having to kind of reignite yourself offensively there in the second half. So I don't think that's a loss that people are going to really hold against them. It does obviously hurt you in the conference standings because, again, the simplest pathway is just to win the conference and be in that way. But, yeah, this is going to be another really good Tennessee team. I have no doubt about that.
It just speaks to the culture that's been built there, coming out of the Jeremy Pruitt disaster and the Butch Jones debacle and the Dooley debacle, and then Kiffin leaving in the middle of the night while they were burning stuff outside the football facility.
We talked about it last week. Like, this has been a snake-bitten fan base that has dealt
Clown
with
show.
Yeah, clown show is a better way to put it. That has dealt with incompetent head coach after incompetent head coach after incompetent head coach. And, Josh Heupel has finally got this thing rolling in the right direction. Again, they still have to, make SEC title games and start winning in the college ball playoff, take that next step. But the fact that they're there in and of itself tells you this program's in a really, really good spot. And again, they'd done everything to win the game on Saturday. It was their young kicker that, and by the way, you knew that wasn't going to go in, right? Like, you saw the deer in the headlights look as he's lining up for that thing. You can already tell when a kicker is going to miss something, and that was a perfect example of it.
And they had also gotten greedy.
And they had the penalty right before it, too.
Yeah, they got greedy. They wanted to center it up. They could have kicked it closer.
Yeah.
But they were trying to, they obviously didn't have much confidence maybe in the kicker. That's why they wanted the conditions to be pristine. I don't know, and maybe that's the chink in the armor. Either way, I saw Heupel's post game, and I thought he handled it great. I mean, we lost. Even Kirby said Tennessee won this football game.
Yeah, no,
Those are his words. Tennessee won the game.
Yeah, and you could see the excitement from him when Georgia won because he knew he really got, fortunate on that one. But like for Heupel, if I'm him and I look at my team and the way that we lost that game, I'm not panicking. Like, yeah, one loss sucks, obviously, but all your goals are still ahead of you. And if you play that high level, then you're going to be fine. Like, they're going to win enough games. They'll make the playoff or should make the playoff, and they're going to be okay. I think it bothers him more than anything that he hasn't been able to get over the, Georgia hump, despite each and every time usually getting out to some kind of double-digit lead. So that's probably what's keeping them up at night. But no, Tennessee, they're fine. They're going to be fine.
it comes down to how many teams in the SEC are going to make the playoff. And if you had to project right now, I would say LSU, I would say Georgia, I would say Tennessee. Those would be my 3 teams that I would pick.
I'm on the fence about Oklahoma. I like what I've seen so far. I think they have the capability of being that. Right now, I'm not buying Texas because Arch Manning is just not looking the part. But I feel comfortable with saying 3 with a potential for a 4th in Oklahoma if they keep playing the way they've played.
We could spend the next 2 hours talking about Arch Manning. I mean, we've missed overall on our quarterback list.
Oh yeah,
Klubnik?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, my thoughts on good quarterbacks is gone sideways. I was riding the DJ Lagway hype train, and he proceeded to throw 5 interceptions on Saturday against LSU.
The only one that Nussmeier's looked pretty good. Nussmeier's looked pretty good. Beck has not looked great. He's looked good, but not great. But we knew what we were getting with him.
Sure.
But the rest of the quarterbacks, man, I mean, Mateer has been a revelation.
He has.
But the rest of them, I mean, it just shows that we don't really know anything. I'm never going to project again. Even Lenore Sellers, God bless his heart, hasn't looked like Lenore Sellers up until he went out the other night. He hasn't fully looked like it.
Well, and again, he's got injured and missed half the game. But for anybody that thought Lenore Sellers was on the Heisman train, his numbers are nowhere near what they need to be to make something like that happen. Like, you would have to turn the wick up immediately to be in the realm of what Mateer is doing. And within this offense, I just don't see it happening.
I'll be honest with you. Mateer, his numbers are phenomenal, but if I had to pick a Heisman-esque quarterback right now, it would be Haynes King at Georgia Tech. What I saw on Saturday, it was very Tebow-like, except he's got a better arm than Tebow. He's not a battering ram to the extent Tebow was, but this dude is a competitor.
Yeah. And
they had 2 plays, Tyler, left or right with Haynes King.
Yeah. And there may not be a quarterback more important to his team's success than Haynes King out there at Georgia Tech. I mentioned DJ Lagway throwing 5 picks against LSU. Brian Kelly had some things to say to the media. We'll get into that coming up next. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler and Scott Hamilton on your Reaction Monday on the Game. All right, welcome back in at Halftime Show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head, Scott Hamilton along with you here on your Reaction Monday on the game tonight. By the way, Monday Night Football coming up. We'll have the Tampa Bay and Houston game for you right here on the games. Be sure to tune into that as week number 2 of the NFL season does wrap up. I don't know about you, but anytime I hear that Brian Kelly had a viral moment in a press conference, I get real excited. Whether it be banging on a table or somewhere in between, Brian Kelly in front of a microphone rarely disappoints. And on Saturday night in Baton Rouge, they pick up the 20-10 victory over Florida. Again, DJ Lagway throws 5 picks in that game. Billy Napier's grave gets a little bit deeper in terms of his tenure down there in Gainesville, though it wasn't the prettiest game for LSU offensively, and they've gotten off to some slow starts so far this year. They still won the game regardless, and Brian Kelly was not in the mood to answer a question about what was wrong with his offense. Cut number 26 here, Ed, because this happened immediately when his presser started after the game.
Brian in the back, I know you love these immediate post-game sessions, but what are you seeing with your offense?
Stop. Really? Is that the first question? We won the game 20-10. Try another question. What do you want me to tell you? I just laid it out for you. We played the game to win the game. We played the game to win the game.
All right, how about third down then? What is going on with third down?
It's one game. Last game, we were great on third down. You're looking at this from the wrong perspective. LSU won the football game. Won the game. I don't know what you want from me. What do you want? You want us to win 70-0 against Florida to keep you happy?
No, I think people want to know why you can't run the ball, quite honestly.
We can run the ball. Did you see the last play of the game? That's all you need. You just need one. There's a ridiculous questions. And I'm getting tired of it. That football team just worked their tail off to get an SEC win, and you want to know what's wrong. You know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled. This team is 17-1 at night. 17-1. Give them some respect. How about that? Give them some respect instead of micro-analyzing every little thing. This is ridiculous. For a group of seasoned reporters, that kind of question is so out of line.
So, to be fair to what the reporter was asking, in case you were curious, LSU went 4 of 14 on third downs, which is 28%, and they only ran the ball for 96 yards in this game, which is why the questions are being asked. Now, Scott, I am not a press conference media person. I don't typically go to these kind of things, and there is definitely an etiquette on when and how to ask certain questions, and a lot of the consensus I saw was fair questions to ask, maybe not to lead off the press conference.
I thought it was absolutely fine.
I thought it was fine. To lead the press conference off, though?
Why not? Because Kelly has come in and he's given an opening statement. Hey, Florida, played their butts off, yada, yada, yada. I saw this, I saw that, blah, 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 blah. What else are you going to open with? And for anybody to say that was poor form, they don't know what they're talking about. And first of all, it was theatrical.
It was. No, it was great.
Again, on BK's part.
Yeah.
And it made me think, have you ever seen The Godfather? Part 2?
Yeah.
He's Fredo. That's who he is. He's the little brother of the SEC, and he wants respect. He wants respect. He gets passed over. That's who he is. He's Fredo. And for him to have to go to these lengths to communicate a message, to send a message probably to his team,
sure,
he's standing up for them,
sure, is
laughable. And let's go back to the question. What did you see of your offense? What did you think of your offense? They won the game. Good on them.
They did.
Tyler, they scored 20 points. It's not like they put out the light bulbs on the scoreboard.
Sure.
Okay? Why is he so sensitive over that question? There's something deeper there.
Yeah,
I'm dying to find out what.
And I don't know anything about this reporter, but I imagine it's probably not the first time he's specifically asked about the offense, and I'm sure he in prior times when he's done it, it probably has the negative connotation of, hey, what's wrong type of thing. So maybe that was Brian Kelly just kind of hitting his boiling point. But here's the thing. If I'm a head coach, I never want to be the story, right, with these kind of things. Like, if he's asked that question, he says, hey, thought we did fine today, next question. Like, it's not a story, but the fact that he goes on a rant, when you're a coach that's already known for doing these kind of things in press conferences, it kind of blows up into a whole nother thing, which, again, brings attention to you and your team that ideally you probably don't want?
Okay, I just found he apologized for it. I just sent it to you, by the way.
Okay.
BK apologized to that reporter, evidently, during his morning presser today.
Yeah, I know. They were showing the presser on SEC Network, but I couldn't hear what he said.
Well, dude, come on. Come on. Now, you see, here's my thing. I have to wonder now if this was already planned. Okay? And that he could write it off as being, oh, well, that was just my, I was emotional because we were still in the fight of the game and all that, yada, yada, yada. But I'm wondering if this was all planned. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna have this outburst. I'm gonna send this message, and then I'm gonna turn around and apologize the next day, and it's gonna make it look like it was emotion, and I still got my message. This guy, do you have the cut of him being introduced as LSU coach? The whole family.
Yeah, oh yeah, I remember the fake accent and all that kind of stuff. Again, when Brian Kelly's in front of a microphone at a presser, I am paying attention because he's going to give us something to talk about more often than not.
Wasn't he a politician or something? His dad was like a Barnstable or something.
Gary Hart. He was on Gary Hart's presidential campaign back in the late 80s, I guess it was. They talked about that in the Any Given Saturday series on Netflix. So he comes from a political background.
Yeah, it's all making sense now. It's all making sense now. I don't like the guy. I'm just going to throw it out there. I just don't like the guy. I don't like the way he left Notre Dame with a text message in a 3-minute meeting before hopping on a plane to abandon a team that still had a shot at the playoff when it was only 4 teams. I don't like the phoniness of how he was introduced at LSU, and I don't like the theatrics of slamming tables and jumping on the reporters who ask legitimate questions.
He's the classic example of good football coach, not a great dude, right? You know what I mean? I'd hired you to scheme up an offense for me, but I wouldn't hire you to babysit my niece and nephew. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because I think his moral compass is very off. I
would vote for him for town council, maybe. He's got that look, and they're going to do what they want to. And then I have a friend on town council.
Okay,
I would do that.
Yeah, maybe so
for my own benefit. I wouldn't let my kid play for him.
Either way,
remember the kid he turned his back on who was in a hospital?
Yeah, well, and then there was the kid at Notre Dame that he forced to go on the scaffolding that ended up dying. That
whole thing.
That is something that got swept too far under the rug. But yeah, look, he's at the end of the day, he wins on the football field, and that's why he's in the position that he's in at LSU. And look, they got a really good team, right? They might be. Nobody is stuck their flag in the ground as we are the dominant force in the SEC right now. I know we're only 3 weeks in, and most teams haven't really gotten into conference play yet, but nobody's really established themselves as the top dog, right? Even LSU with their offensive issues, you're kind of okay, I need to see a little bit more before I feel like you guys are the unstoppable force or something.
Yeah, and when was the last time we had a year quite like this where we couldn't say these guys are the alphas?
Oh, man. Because for the long time, it was just you defaulted to Alabama,
Georgia,
right?
Alabama.
Yeah.
Georgia, Alabama.
And Georgia came along in the past couple of years man,
Texas last year was in the mix.
Texas was in the mix, but yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of a year where we just didn't really know almost a month into the season.
Maybe 2010 before we realized that Cam Newton was really something special.
That's a good point. I don't know. Because Alabama was still good that year. I know they didn't make the national championship. They still played in the was that the Capital One Bowl that year? They were 10-2.
But that was only year 3 under Saban. They weren't yet.
They hadn't gotten rolled into the dynasty yet. That's true. That'd be year 4 under Saban. 07, 08, 09, 10.
You had Florida back to back.
Yeah.
And then the emergence of Bama in Florida at the same time, and then here comes Auburn.
Yeah, that might actually be it. That might be 2010 since last time we had a conference that was this wide open as of right now. Some changes have been made up in Blacksburg. What does Coach Beamer think about the Virginia Tech job being open? We'll talk about that coming up next to wrap up hour number 2. It is the Halftime Show presented by the Men's Clinic here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Tyler Head and Scott Hamilton wrapping up hour number 2 here on your Reaction Monday on the game. Over the weekend, perhaps the ugliest loss for anybody in college football was Virginia Tech as they fell to Old Dominion 45-26 after finding themselves down 28-0 at halftime of that game. Well, they could have probably moved on from Brent Pry at that moment. They decided to let him coach the second half and then proceeded to fire him yesterday after a pretty dismal tenure overall there in Blacksburg. And given the connections, of course, Beamer's name is going to come up when this kind of firing is made. And last night on his teleconference, cut number 31 here, Ed, this is Beamer addressing the now open coaching spot at Virginia Tech.
Not really. I think the week of the Virginia Tech game, I told everyone how I feel about South Carolina and my love for this place, and that's where my focus is right now, is getting our football team better, because I don't like where we are right now, and that's my responsibility, and I've got to get it better without a doubt, and confident that we will. And then I hate it for Brent. He's somebody that I've known for, since I was in college and have a lot of respect for, and days like this in the coaching profession suck, because that's a good man with a family that's got daughters about the age of my daughters, and I know how hard losing is on your family. Seeing that right now with mine, but different too when a guy loses his job also. So feel for Brent and the people that I know on that staff, and hate that decision was made.
Obviously, again, the connection with the Beamer family makes sense why his name's getting brought up. Shane is not leaving South Carolina for Virginia Tech. That would be a terrible move.
How many reasons should I give you why he should just stay where he's at? I think number one is obviously, do you go from the SEC to the ACC? He makes
that.
Almost twice as much as they were paying Brent Pry.
Yep.
The pathway you would think would be easier to the playoff in the ACC, but at the same time, one loss derails you because the schedule is so much weaker.
Mm-hmm.
And let's also think of this. He goes to Virginia Tech. What's his ceiling? He'll always be the second Beamer. He'll never be the first Beamer. There's a statue of his father outside the stadium, for goodness sake. His dad took them to the national championship game. He built that program with his hands.
Yep.
He'll never be able to achieve anything on his own. He'll always be in the shadow of his own dad. What he's doing at South Carolina, still to be determined.
Sure.
But the opportunity is there for him to become his own man, his own coach, and set his own way.
And he even said that much leading into the VT game that, in Blacksburg, he's Frank's son. Here, he's Shane Beamer. Like, he is his own person. And, I know we're not feeling great about where we're at today, given the loss on Saturday, but he has built Carolina into something 5 years in so far, right? So if he were theoretically to go to Blacksburg, you're starting over at zero. Like, there's going to be a gazillion transfers out of that program in the next couple of days. I don't envy whoever ends up taking that job, because they're going to have to start from dirt and try and build that program back up to something respectable in the ACC. And I don't think VT is necessarily at the highest when it comes to resources overall in the conference. So that's going to be a challenge for, again, whoever ends up taking the job. But, yeah, Beamer is not leaving South Carolina, for the Virginia Tech job. Now, again, if he was still an assistant in Oklahoma and that job came open, heck yeah, he'd jump all over that, and it seems like it'd be the perfect opportunity. But no, he's got something going here. Again, we're not feeling great about it today, but I have zero worry about him jumping ship for Virginia Tech.
They did not call him when Justin Fuente was getting fired. They did not reach out to him when he heard a year prior that he was going. South Carolina reached out to him immediately. And it goes, look, if this goes really deep at Virginia Tech, that athletic department is a train wreck. The athletic director is a train wreck. Rip Babcock has done nothing but swing and miss. This will be the third coaching change since Beamer, the man, Frank, retired. And I'm using air quotes because he was kind of pushed into retirement. I don't know who they get. I mean, it's a good job, and they are pumping more money into it, but I don't know who takes that job. You don't leave a Power 5 job for that. That's for sure.
No, you do not. It's going to have to be one of those flashy coordinator hires. I don't know who that flashy coordinator is right now, to be honest with you, but that's kind of the route you probably go. I don't know. Unless you can convince Alex Golesh to leave USF, maybe.
I would wait out the Florida job.
Yeah, honestly, I would too. Much better job.
Or even UCLA.
Yeah, much better situation, much better jobs, better conferences, better situations. But yeah, Brent Pry, and there goes any credibility Carolina had for that win over VT, because they're going to end up being like one of the worst teams in all of Power 4 this year, no doubt about it.
With UCLA.
With UCLA, that's right. Scott, appreciate it. We'll check in with you later on in the week.
You the man. See you, buddy.
It is the halftime show presented by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Terry Ford going to hop in here coming up next in hour number 3 as your Remote Reaction Monday rolls along here on the game.
Terry Ford hanging in. Let Tyler go home. Why not? He suffered enough. Go home. Enjoy yourself. Have to go home and cut some audio, right, Ed? Our buddy Tyler had. Let Tyler slip on out of here. Terry Ford will do an hour before we jump in on the postgame show with Jay and I here on the game. And look, obviously, a very disappointing Saturday night at Williams-Brice. And look, you got beat. No one's going to sugarcoat that and act like, well, no, you lost the game 31-7 to a team that, again, we talked about it last week. You can't play your CD game against Vanderbilt. It's not going to work. This is a better version of Vanderbilt. But you look at 31-7, and look, the score is a score. That's how you lose, right? Sure. But to me, look, Saturday night, look, I don't know what the outcome would have been, but let's just be real. This game changed when Lenore Sellers went out. It just did. I'm not saying that's why South Carolina lost. Defensively, there was some stuff. And offensively, there was some stuff. But the turning point, I'll get to what I think was the most important play. But the turning point is when Sellers gets knocked out of the game. Flat out. That's it. Very few teams in college football today, because the way this is set up with NIL and the transfer portal, very few teams have a backup quarterback who is going to come in and play anywhere near the level of the starter, any way, shape, or form. It's just not the way it is. Luke Doty, Luke Doty's a backup quarterback. He did some good things. He did some things he'd probably like to do different. He's not Lenore Sellers. Robbie Ashford wasn't Lenore Sellers. We saw that last year. It's just, it's a different world. And typically, your starter's your starter for a reason. Your backup's a backup for a reason. So Sellers getting knocked out of the game, it's no disrespect to Luke Doty, but just that was the turning point, obviously, of the football game. Hold on for a minute. How'd I do that? Let's not do that again. This team was, in Lenore Sellers' first two drives, touchdown, should have been touchdown, ended up being an interception. We'll get to that in a minute. But you moved the ball, and then you shot yourself in the feet with a bad snap and a penalty, and then you had your quarterback knocked out of the game. That's the turning point of this contest. But to me, and we're going to get to our buddy Jamie in just a second, the biggest play of the game was the interception. You're going down to take a 14-7 lead, and once you get the lead, at least temporarily, you're dictating, right? You have the lead, you're home, you're dictating. And if you score there, whether Vanderbilt scores or not, who knows? Maybe the play calling sequences change, and maybe you're not calling a play where Trevon Ball doesn't read the blitz and decides to help out Boaz Stanley in a pass protection setup, and you leave a free runner at linebacker that, goes helmet to helmet with your quarterback. The interception, to me, changed so much in this football game. But obviously the biggest moment is when Lenore Sellers gets knocked out. Again, it's not the same. Does it mean South Carolina wins the game? I'm not saying that, but I'm going to go on a limb and say this. I'm pretty bleeping sure it's not 31-7 if Lenore Sellers is playing. What is it? I don't know, but I don't think it's that. I think you got yourself a really good close football game in the fourth quarter if you still have your starting quarterback. That's just me. But you didn't, and the place just deflated. And I know the stands deflated, the atmosphere deflated, felt like the team in spots deflated, and Vanderbilt, they kept their foot on the gas, man. And they took advantage of that situation, and they went out there and won the football game 31-7. All right, Jamie Bradford has been sitting around trying to stay awake as I talk. Let's get Jamie in here. How you doing, Bob?
What's up, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I just ate some pizza, had some coffee, knocked down, put a little Bailey's in it. I'm having a good day. I'm all right.
That's what it takes to get through Mondays after you lose on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And obviously, you've watched it probably 3 or 4 times by now.
Yeah.
When I say to you, first thoughts coming off of that, like if you were walking out of the stadium or turning off your TV, what's the first thing that was running through your head after the loss?
Yeah, well, the first thing was you can't turn the football over 4 times, whether you're home or away, and expect to win the game, especially when you're in the red zone, and especially against a team like Vanderbilt, who is fundamentally sound, Terry, and they possess the football, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. I mean, I know Diego made one on Saturday night, but they're very rare, and they're an older group. And when that happens, this isn't last year or yesterday or last week or your grandma or however you want to say it's Vanderbilt. This is a new Vanderbilt. They are a good, fundamentally sound, tough football team, and if you give them opportunities, they can beat you.
Jamie Bradford hanging out with us as we talk Gamecocks coming off that 31-7 loss to Vandy. And you make a good point. Vandy doesn't beat themselves. Now, can you beat them? Sure you can. If you play your A or B game and you play crisp and don't beat yourself, sure. But to your point, 4 turnovers, and throw these in, Jamie, also twice get stopped on downs, which is another really a turnover. So 6 times you gave them back the football in that game. That's not a recipe to get a W against really not just Vanderbilt, anybody.
Well, and that's exactly right, and you're right about saying that. You know, turning it over on downs sometimes is the same thing as a turnover. I mean, they just, you know, South Carolina, when you look at them offensively, you can, from game to game, there are some things that have been consistently not very good, but then also you can lump more into it. You know, hey, all the tackles for a loss that they've given up this year, they're 15th in the league in that. And, you know, I want to credit John Whittle with the Big Spur for that stat. It's the 3rd straight year where Carolina is second to last in the league in tackles for loss allowed. The turnovers, the pre-snap penalties. You know, I thought they ran the football better the other night than they had. Faison finally got a number of touches, and I thought he did okay. But obviously when Sellers came out of the game, it changed a lot of stuff, man. And so, you know, you can point to a bunch of different things each game right now that just aren't really going in their direction. It's not like one thing or this thing or that thing. It just all continues to kind of flutter around out there, and I just don't feel like they've got an identity of who they are and who they want to be offensively right now.
I'm glad you brought that. We're yapping with our buddy Jamie Bradford about what happened on Saturday night with the Gamecocks, a 31-7 loss to Vandy. The flip side, you looked at the other team. You know who Vanderbilt is, Jamie.
Yeah.
I mean, they tell you right away. They show you. It is not difficult to figure out their identity and who they are on offense. And I'm going to tell you, what Beck put on a clinic, the offensive coordinator for Vanderbilt, that was a clinic Saturday night on the way they run that offense.
Yeah. Well, look, one of the things that they do really, really well is they take, like, if you ask me today, if you ask most people who are watching the games and are understanding the games, and you say, all right, do you want, from a talent standpoint, do you want South Carolina's roster or do you want Vanderbilt's roster? They're going to take South Carolina. I would probably say 10 out of 10 times. If you polled 10 different people would tell you the same thing. No, I want South Carolina's. Okay, fair enough. Well, what Vanderbilt does well is they use their star and allow him to they make the defense play 11 people, but it feels like playing 12, right? Mm-hmm. So what they do is they take Diego Pavia, they put him in space to where you have 11 guys on the other side of the field having to account for him in addition to whoever they've got covered, you know, whether it's a receiver, whatever it is. But then once they get him into space, they're able to take their playmakers when they get into space, and it's one little move here, one little move there. Terry, they don't have to have guys running around wide open. This is why it's death by 1,000 cuts when you play Vanderbilt and you leave them out on the field for 35-plus minutes. They will find a way to get Pavia where they need to get him to where you've got enough concern, and it allows a tight end, it allows a receiver, it allows a running back out of the backfield to just make one small move. All it is 1 foot. You put a foot in the ground, you separate yourself by a yard or so, and guess what? When you do that, Pavia reads it, that's where they strike. And that's the difference, and that's how they're able to just chip, and then chop down the field. And so you talk about who Vanderbilt is. That's what they're going to do. They're going to use space. They're going to create space, and they're going to exhaust you from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. And then if you get there and you're down, it is really hard to come back and beat a team like that. We saw that on Saturday.
Jamie Bradford hanging out with us talking Gamecocks here on the halftime show. Terry Ford popping in so Tyler can go take a nap here on the game. We'll get the post-game show rolling with Jay Phillips and I here at 3 o'clock. All right, and to your point on that 44-yard touchdown run, that's what they did. One of the things on that run, if you watch it, is Fred Johnson goes with Pavia, even though Pavia doesn't even have the ball. But Pavia does so many things, and with the ball handling and the fake handoffs and the eye candy and the fake jet sweeps and and all the things they do, Johnson's going with the guy who doesn't have the ball, so he doesn't have a chance to try to fill a gap along with some of these other guys, and you're one less guy on that left side defensively to stop that long run because of what Pavia does. He makes you account for him on every play, whether he's really involved in it or not.
Yeah, and like you take that, and that's where I personally feel like, and I generally base my personal feelings on people who know a lot more than me. I try to have every conversation I can with people who either played the game at South Carolina or they're covering the game on a different level or whatever it is, and I say, isn't that LaNorris Sellers? I mean, again, I know that he left the game the other night with injury, and we'll see what happens here this week. But like, that's who we saw. That's who he was turning into last year. That's who he became, and that's why South Carolina was so dangerous. It felt like you were playing 12 guys when you had to play them because LaNorris Sellers kind of counted for 2 of them, and I don't know that they've done a lot or enough of that, or they haven't executed it if they've tried to do it this year through 3 games. So, but it's a little bit of a different level. I mean, South Carolina is a more explosive offense than Vanderbilt when things are clicking. Now, obviously, we haven't seen that this year, but you take what Vanderbilt does, like you were just explaining, and you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, we have that guy. Like that guy is right here. He's number 16. So I really hope that, there's a lot of work in that department over the next, couple of weeks and try to get this thing on track because they're so capable of it. They just haven't put it all together.
You suck. So I was going to ask you that question. You answered my question before I asked it, Jamie Bradford. No more of that, sir. No.
Hey, that's what the good ones do, Terry. They get ahead of it.
Because I was going to bring that up to you. When I'm watching this game and just like in the moment in the press box after I've, eaten 7 pieces of cake, is the idea that, South Carolina should be using, not exactly, because obviously Sellers has got a different skill set than Pavia, but Sellers can affect the game in so many different ways like Pavia does. And it's just like, no, South Carolina's not maximizing the skill set of this unicorn-type quarterback. And that's what I was watching going, my God, Pavia is nowhere near the physical presence, skill set, anything that LaNorris Sellers is. But they are maximizing every skill he has to affect the defense. And, that's what South Carolina's got to do, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm going to, and I know we're probably up against a break here, but I'm going to squeeze this in real quick. I'm going to steal something from the guy who works for you, Preston Thorne, who said this to me last week, and I just felt like it was the best point I've heard all year about LaNorris. When you look to the NFL and we've heard these comparisons all off season and during the season and those type things. You look at all these great players who have skill sets like he does, right? So you look at Josh Allen and you look at Lamar Jackson. Those guys played last Sunday night, and this is why this came up. Those guys weren't put into a box. Like when they went to the NFL, there were certain traits that made them who they were. And the longer that you stay in the league, right, they're gonna kind of carve you into some of what they want you to be. But they're not going to take away who you are. And I'm just fearful of that with LaNorris, and maybe I'm way wrong. Maybe I'm dead wrong on this. I could be way off. But he doesn't have to be a certain quarterback to play in the NFL. Jerry, like he needs to be LaNorris Sellers. LaNorris Sellers is good enough being himself. They will get you where they want to get you. Like I don't think that prototypical NFL quarterback, like that old school way of looking at it, necessarily exist for guys who have the talent that he's got. Like, he doesn't need all that stuff. He just needs to go out and be who he is. It's like driving on a 2-lane road versus a 4-lane road. You're stuck in the left lane because everybody's around you. They're going 60 miles an hour. The speed limit's 70. But if you got 3 or 4 lanes to work with, you can get out and get around them and get you where you need to go. And I hope once he's healthy, whenever that is, like, I hope they give him that 3rd and 4th lane. Let him be himself.
Jamie Bradford will come back, talk more about what happened Saturday. And moving forward, Missouri, a double-digit favorite already. South Carolina's got to travel to Como to take on the Tigers. We'll get to that next on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, Jamie Bradford hanging out with us on the game. We are hanging out here on the halftime show. Terry Ford hanging as Tyler. Let him get out of here early. My God. Give him a chance to chill out a little bit. We're hoping our buddy Bill Gunner will be back soon. We'll know more about that soon, and we'll relay that to you. But right now, Tyler, take off a little early. Terry Ford hopping in until Jay and I start the postgame show at 3. Jamie Bradford hanging out with us on the AAA Heating and Air guest line. How about you tomorrow? Come in and do 6 hours with Tyler here. What do you say, Bob?
Hey, I've had to do things like that in my past. I've got the luxury of not having to do that anymore. So.
Hey, Jamie, I did some of those 6-hour shows back in the day too, man. You know what you start doing? You start getting tired of hearing yourself.
Oh, God, dude. Nobody hates listening to me more than myself. So somebody out there that's hearing this right now is like, man, this guy sucks. Believe me, I already know that.
Hey, you know what the worst was when you had that PD to bring you in to do that air check session? You had to listen to your own voice.
Oh, yeah, it's miserable.
That's awful.
It's miserable. It's miserable.
All right, my man. We've talked a lot about Sellers and that situation. I want to flip it over to the defense. Obviously, it's a rough night. I thought one of the keys going in, Jamie, was first down. Put Vandy in second and long and third and long, kind of shorten their playbook, force them to, have to throw the ball. They're not really good in pass protection, blah, blah, blah. Well, South Carolina, the average like almost 6.5 yards on first down for Vandy. So obviously the Gamecocks couldn't get that done. I was shocked, Jamie, that Vandy was only 6 of 12 on third down conversions. It felt like they were 12 for 12. But, South Carolina had trouble getting off the field. There were some key third down moments. They couldn't get a stop. It was like you said, death by 1,000 paper cuts for the defense.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, this conversation, for a couple of reasons. Number one, let's give some credit to Vanderbilt. So since Diego Pavia arrived in Nashville, going into the ball game this weekend, in their wins, they have converted 54% of their third downs in their wins. In their losses, they had only converted 35% of their third downs. All right, so I started looking at that, and I had done a bunch of research last week on South Carolina on first down. First down plays going into that ball game this past weekend, the Gamecocks had on first down gained 2 yards or less on 26 of 48 first down plays going into the game. Like, that's not very good.
No, it's not.
Okay, so one of the ways that you're going to and then you equate the time of possession into all of that, and the fact that in the first two games Carolina had been on the field for 25 minutes and 51 seconds. I'm going to tie all this in. Just give me a second. 25 minutes and 51 seconds, and then 25 minutes and 21 seconds against South Carolina State, and both the Bulldogs and the Hokies had the football for 35 minutes. You start looking at your numbers offensively, and you go, okay, why is South Carolina's not scoring a bunch of points? They're only scoring offensively 17 points a game. Why are they not scoring points, and they're not even on the field that long? And of course, so I went to first down and I saw that, and then I looked at the Vanderbilt game and started looking at their first down numbers and their third down conversion rate, and that's where all this tied in. And I thought to myself, okay, Carolina needs to stay on the field offensively, because if they don't, and you're out there for 30, 35 minutes against Vanderbilt, they're going to wind you down, and they're going to convert third downs, and then they're probably going to win the game. And that is exactly what happened. I mean, you're talking about a Gamecocks defense here. Let me paint this in a little bit of a different picture. South Carolina's defense has played an extra half of football this year compared to their offense. You realize that? So you're talking about three straight games where the defense has been on the field for 10-plus extra minutes compared to their offense. That's no bueno, man. Like, that's not going to work. And so while, yes, the defense had some moments that they'd like to have back on Saturday night, I know there's some people who are frustrated by it, but there's got to be some complementary football in there that's going to help these guys a little bit. I mean, they've played an extra half of football compared to their offense through 3 games. So, yeah, hey, look, got to clean some stuff up. That's always going to be the case when you play your corners on islands like they do. They're going to have some moments. That's true. But overall, this defense is they're still pretty good, and they're still their best shot at winning games. I look at it more And I'm not trying to pile on the offensive guys. Like, I actually thought that the offense did some nice things this past weekend, but they continue to need to do more to help these dudes out on the other side of the football. And when they do that, you'll see a lot of return to form, if you will, from the Gamecocks defense.
You know, and going to your point about Vandy and Jamie Bradford hanging out with us, talking Gamecocks and Commodores here on the halftime show on the game. Going back to that is what Vanderbilt does to you is it's a mental wear down too. It's constant motion, constant faking, constant misdirections, constant do your job, do your responsibility. You know, don't be as aggressive as you typically. All these things, it's almost like a mind game in some ways, Jamie. Besides the fact that they're a lot more physical than they used to be.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, and that all goes back to Clark Lee. I mean, when Steve Spurrier got to South Carolina, and again the same thing with Coach Beamer. But the thing that Steve Spurrier and Clark Lee are two totally different hires. I understand that. But they both walked in the door at, middle of the road, below average, middle class, however you want to word it, programs in the league. And they made people buy into the fact that we believe we can win here. And they weren't scared to say it. I mean, Steve Spurrier said it in his press conference, and he stole it from the Red Sox, who just won the World Series, right? Why not us? Why not us? I mean, I'm a winner. So why do we not think we can win these games? And Shane, of course, has done the same thing. Clark Lee's now done that at Vanderbilt. And it took them a little while to kind of get there, obviously. And they had to go out and do some things in the portal, and they made some nice coaching hires. But that's what this involves. He sold that to them. Hey, we can win here. And he's a very detailed guy, right? He's a very tough guy. I don't think there's a difference in Clark Lee when they're winning and when they're losing, which is always a really good thing. And they got the right guy at quarterback, and his moxie kind of bleeds over into their program. So yeah, you continue to give them opportunities, and the fact that they play disciplined football and they're confident football players and things like that. South Carolina isn't the only good football team that they're going to beat this year. They're going to be 5-0. First of all, going to Alabama in a couple of weeks. So, it's another player on the scene in the SEC. This is one of those examples where the transfer portal, if you do it the right way, can really help turn things around in a hurry for you, and they've kind of got that magic potion.
Jamie Bradford hanging out for another segment with us, right, Bob? You good? You're okay?
As long as you need me, man. I'm just sitting there in my office, just watching film, Terry, watching film.
I appreciate you, my friend. Jamie Bradford, come back with us, talk some more Gamecocks next here on the halftime show on the game.
It's not enough winning football. Told the team before the game, Vanderbilt, that's a team you got to go beat. They're not going to give you anything, and we didn't do that tonight. Way too much self-inflicted stuff. Injury-wise, don't have an update for you on Lenoris or Kaysen, and questions.
All right, there's Shane Beamer, post-game presser. The hope is Lenoris, Sellers, and Kaysen Henry will be back this Saturday. That's the hope. We'll see how the week goes. Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. Right now, South Carolina early line double-digit dog. Missouri's undefeated. They played Kansas in the border war. Kansas is a solid power four-conference squad. And then had 2 cupcakes. But Missouri at home is a thing. It's where this team has struggled at times. We'll bring in Jamie Bradford again, talking with us about what happened on Saturday. Now let's move forward, though, Jamie. You got Mizzou at Missouri. They're undefeated right now. Feels like their offense, a new quarterback in Bo Pribula and some other pieces. Ahmad Hardy has been running crazy. Again, this isn't going to be easy, but again, if you go in there and you play the way you should be able to and you have your quarterback, this is not like, oh, God, you have no chance, right?
Well, no. I mean, hey, going into the game this past weekend, I mean, you looked ahead. If you looked ahead of the schedule, it was logical to think, okay, South Carolina should be favored in these next 3 games. You know, this is kind of a toss-up game on the road going into it. Now, coming out of it, obviously it changes that thinking a little bit, and Carolina hasn't won up there since 2017 when Deebo Samuel took that kick to the house. So, you know, it's been a while, and it's a for whatever reason, it's a hard place to go win. You know, it's against a team and a coach that takes a lot of pride in beating you. The one thing that we can say, like in Shane Beamer's tenure here, his teams don't quit. They do the exact opposite of that. You know, they're able to pick up the pieces. They're able to flush it. He's got an incredible ability to rally the troops together and go out there and get things turned around. I mean, Terry, in 2022, after that debacle down in the swamp, everybody thought it was over.
I know. I remember who's showing up, Jamie? Tennessee, who's scoring 100 points a game on everybody.
Exactly. And look what they did. You know, they simplified some things, and you know, and hey, look, in 2023, you know, it wasn't going well. And what did they do? They needed to win every game in November. Now they got beat by Clemson at the end of the year, 16-7, but they went out and just won game after game after game. I mean, last year, you know, I remember Shane said after the Ole Miss game, he said, you know, we've had enough. And they went to Tuscaloosa, and it was a 2-point ball game, had a chance to win it, and then after that they didn't lose. So, you know, I would never throw in the towel on a Shane Beamer coach football team. I mean, they'll work all hours of the night to get this thing figured out. And they got the players. That's the thing. The players exist in that building, man. So, you know, is it after what we saw? Is it you know, would you say, hey, it's very likely that we watch TV on Saturday night or fly to Missouri and watch a football team that comes out and pounds Missouri into submission on their own field? Well, of course you're not going to say that. It'd kind of be lunacy if you were going to just come out with a hot take like that. But would I put it past this team to go up there and win the game? Absolutely not. No way. I would never, ever doubt him because he's proven in the last 4 years you shouldn't do that.
And to your point, it feels like every time that feeling of, oh, my gosh, right? Like after that Florida game in the swamp, like after last year, after Ole Miss then losing that game at Bama, that you were the better team for the last 3 quarters. And I remember Mazeo Bennett after the Bama game, the freshman, you know, being interviewed going, I won't lose no more. I'm tired of this feeling. I don't like this feeling. And they went and ran the table. Whenever everybody, and not saying gets against them, when everybody almost throws up their hands and gives up, it seems like that's when this squad bounces back and gives you their best performance.
Well, it does. And there's some similarities, to be honest with you. I hate it, but there are some similarities to last year. I mean, remember week 3, LSU comes to town. You're 2-0. They're 2-0 this year. Vanderbilt comes to town. Now, the LSU game, obviously much closer last year, much different than how this thing all kind of worked itself out, how it kind of worked itself out on Saturday night. But Sellers goes down, right? And Robbie Ashford comes into the ball game, and Gamecocks had some unfortunate things happen to them, and they couldn't get that victory. And of course they had Akron the following week, so obviously it helps when you're able to rebound. But then they had Ole Miss, and it was like the lowest point of the whole season. So you got week 3, Sellers once again comes out of the ball game with an injury. And, you know, they were able to kind of re-examine some things of who they wanted to be moving forward, and they kept plugging along. And quite frankly, early in the season last year, it wasn't very pretty offensively. They were kind of needing their defense to carry them, and we're kind of in that same spot again this year. So, you know, if you look back just 1 year ago, you kind of find yourself in a little bit of a similar situation here. But overall, you feel like you got a pretty good football team. So, yeah, man, it's going to be hard to go up there and win. I mean, Missouri seems to be able to score a bunch of points. Bo Pribula is really good. Have they played anybody to this point? I mean, how much credit do you want to give Kansas? I don't know. But, you know, I don't know. But I mean, what do we know about the SEC right now? Like, what if I said, Terry, right now, pick anybody. Who is the best team in the SEC today? Who is it? Is there one answer for that?
It's tough, man. To your point, I mean, okay, Georgia found a way to win that game at Tennessee. Texas, you know, with Arch, you're right. Right now, we can sit and say, when in LSU, how about funny? Did you see Brian Kelly's presser, by the way?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. LSU's undefeated. They got a really nice win, and we'll see how nice that Clemson win is down the road. But, you know, they're sitting there undefeated, and they're winning with defense, which, you know, they've been defense allergic the last couple years. And the first question he gets is, what the hell's wrong with your offense, Coach? So, yeah, right. To your point, you're right. There's no clear top dog in the league.
I think you got a couple of things going on here. And this is, we've been building to this. I talk about it every year, but it's hard to take in when you lose games for any team, not just South Carolina. Nobody knows who they are until like the 4th or 5th week of the season anymore. They just don't. You have no preseason, and you have a bunch of transfers, and nobody knows who they are, dude. Like, I mean, maybe A&M's the best team in the league. Maybe Ole Miss is the best team in the league. Maybe Vanderbilt is the best team in the league. I mean, you mentioned Texas. I mean, with how we've watched Lenora Sellers play this year, and I mean, look what they're going through over there with Arch Manning. I mean, DJ Lagway was a kid who was being talked about, up there with Lenoris and maybe a top draft pick and all kinds of stuff. DJ Lagway looks terrible. I mean, look at Taylon Green, who was my pick to be the surprise player of the year in the SEC. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now. I mean, it is a 4 and 5 week trial period to figure out who people are. So I'm just saying, I don't know who South Carolina is going to be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. But I don't know who all these other teams are going to be either. And so when I feel like October is the most honest month of the season now. Like, you get your feet wet in September. In October, you kind of become who you are, and then November, half these teams are playing for something, the other half have thrown in the towel because they transferred in, and they really don't even care about that institution.
Well, Jamie,
so I think –
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, that's about it.
I was going to say, to your point, let's take Virginia Tech to the point, right? Yeah. You win that opener against Virginia Tech, you're like, hey, you'd be a Power 4 squad that was 6-6 last year, and everybody thinks they're going to be possibly better this year. Well, they're 0-3, got dog walked by Old Dominion. They're looking for a new head coach, and all of a sudden, even like South Carolina and Vandy look at each other like, well, that win doesn't look as good as it did when we did it, does it, guys?
No. Well, exactly. I mean, Old Dominion beats them by 19 points on their home field. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's college football right now. It is everybody tries to look at it through the same lens that we always looked at it. You can't do that anymore. I'm not trying to make excuses for losses. This doesn't have anything to do with South Carolina. I'm just talking about what we think we know today. We probably aren't going to know this same day next week when it comes to college football. And what you hope is your team, and I know Shane Beamer and his staff have kind of already, kind of circled the wagons with this group. Hey, stay close, stay within yourselves, stay in this building, stay focused, because you could look up and it all falls apart around you. You pick up the steam and all of a sudden there you are. You didn't go anywhere. Don't let one loss turn into 2 and 3 losses, figure out how to make sure that one loss counts for one loss, and that's the goal right now for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, we've never done this. It was fun. Good hanging out with you, man. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. It was cool.
Tell Tyler to take a hike next Monday. I'll be around.
You and I, man. Thanks a lot, Jamie. I appreciate you, pal. All right, halftime show.
Week.
Terry Ford in for Tyler. We'll hit on Reaction Monday. Grab a call or two on the AAA Heating and Air hotline. That's next here on The Game. All right, post-game show with Jay and I coming up here in just a few minutes here on the game. It's a reaction Monday, so let's get you to react on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Let's grab our buddy Dallas has been waiting patiently. Dallas, God love you. Jump on in here. You're on the halftime show on the game. How you doing, my man?
Good, Terry. How are you, man? Listen, I pretty much agree with everybody with the observations in it. And Vanderbilt did play their game, but I don't think they won because they played their game. I think it's what we didn't do, and that we consistently have not been doing. I have never seen a team over the past several years give up more 3rd and 10, 15, 20 yards in my entire life. And the second thing is, by keeping Sellers in the pocket, we're doing exactly what they want to do. Now, he made some great plays, great throws to Harbor and a couple of the other younger receivers who are coming along, so that's good. But we have got to put the fear of God in these teams by rolling Sellers out more. We ran first play was a bootleg, never saw it again.
Mm-hmm.
Great play.
Mm-hmm.
And we have got to roll him out more and make him more of a threat. I mean, we've got the gun. We got to shoot it. That's my take.
I don't disagree, Dallas. And thanks for holding on. We appreciate you calling and listening, my friend. You have a good one now. Look, I know where Dallas is going. You've got a player that has this, and we kid about it here, he's like Liam Neeson. He has a special set of skills. This is a guy who can really affect the football game in multiple ways. And when we get it, does he have to be able to throw from the pocket? Sure. Does he have to go through progressions? Absolutely. But also, you can't take away. But at the end of the day, you know, he's got to be able to affect the game, not just with his arm, but also with his legs, because that's what makes him special. And you got to put that, like Dallas said, the fear of God in these other teams, that this guy is going to take off, whether it's a designed run because he's getting heat in the pocket and he's going to roll out and either throw it down the field, make something happen, or take off and make 5 of your guys look stupid as he rambles down the field for a big gain. You've got to put that element to where the opposing defensive coordinator is laying awake at night, wetting himself out of fear of Lenore Sellers. And again, you know, if you look, it's been 4 games now with Mike Shula as the offensive coordinator, and it's a small sample. But we saw in the Virginia Tech game, we saw in the Vandy game, first drive looked beautiful, right? I love that bootleg, what Dallas brought up. And I was Tyler Elijah, I can't remember who, could have been, you know, the security guard out here. I don't know who it was. But, you know, you didn't see that the rest of the game. And that gets Lenore out on the edge. He's rolling away from the pocket. And he's out in some space to either make a throw to a wide open tight end like he did with Jordan, or take off, whatever the case. Now the option is there to make a play, to be a playmaker. And you saw in that design run, you know, Lenore had a design run for like 8 yards. And now our guy's getting lathered up to go make some plays, right? And I'm watching Diego Pavia. I'm watching some of the other quarterbacks in the country who have dual threat ability, and they're affecting the game with their arm and their legs. And I saw a stat today, real quick. We're looking through Pro Football Focus, just seeing their grading. Look, their grading isn't the end-all, be-all. It's not a Bible. It's not religion, but it gives us some insight of guys who are grading the game, right? Of the pressures that South Carolina has given up in the passing game, 30% of them are going to the quarterback. And the sack percentage on pressures is really high. Now, how much of that is Lenore Sellers, instead of taking off and getting out of the pocket when the heat is coming, he's staying in there and going through progressions because he wants to be more, or they want him to be more of a pocket quarterback. Maybe it's both. Maybe he and they. I don't know. But last year, he's getting out of there. And he's making plays in the A&M game, the Clemson game. And I just think, you've got to let him be him, in the words like Jamie said. And we've been saying, you got to let him be him. Because when he's being him, he's a special talent. And hopefully he'll be back on Saturday to be that special talent. We'll see. And we hope Casey Henry will be back as well. Because Casey Henry's he's had a good year. He really has. I mean, you know, Trevon Ball blew the assignment on that free runner that hit Lenoris and knocked him out of the game. But Ball's had a good year, and Henry's had a good year. Better than they have, last year, I should say. All right, post-game show is next. Ed Bird, good job. Jay and I next on the game.